Yo, based on brand new prices, my entire gym is worth around $19,000. But I only spent around 60% of that at around 11K. And the only reason I was able to accomplish that is because I always buy used. My primary form of buying used gym equipment would be Facebook Marketplace. I won't be teaching you how to navigate Facebook or Facebook Marketplace because I feel like it's pretty intuitive, but I will mention that like everything else, Marketplace is algorithmic. So as you search for things, it starts to recognize what you're searching for more often, and then it starts to show you more of that rather than anything else. So by this point, my Facebook Marketplace is almost exclusively gym equipment. So let's dive right into tips for buying gym equipment. Tip number one, do your research. Before buying anything, make sure you know what you need. And I'm not saying it needs to be a specific brand, but going into Marketplace with a purpose makes it so that you save yourself from needlessly spending money on something you might not even need, like I usually do. And like I said, you don't need to go for a specific brand, but going for one of the bigger known brands makes it so that it's easier to resell. Something like Rogue, Rep, Titan, Bells of Steel, Kabuki, Eleiko, all of those things are pretty recognizable, and that makes them easier to resell, which I'll get into later. Once you know what you want or need, you should know what the brand new price is for that piece of equipment and what the average going rate is for it on a reseller website like Marketplace. That knowledge will help you find good deals and save you from potentially overspending on a piece of equipment. For example, this Hansu Power Bar is around $300+ brand new, and on average it's being sold for around 200 bucks. But I found a guy that was selling multiple for $100 each, still brand new in box. So I bought two of them for 200 bucks. That is a steal. As far as prices go compared to brand new, if it's 15 to 25% off, it's all right. If it's 25 to 40% off, it's a pretty good deal. And then if it's over 40% off, that's a fucking steal, bro. Buy it. But be wary of deals that seem too good to be true, because scammers will often use high demand items like gym equipment to try and lure people in to get their phone number or email, Zelle, Cash App, Venmo, anything out of them to try and scam them out of something. Don't give anyone any information until after you've already met them. And if something seems off, then trust your instincts and proceed with caution. Tip number two is check the condition of the item. When browsing for gym equipment, obviously the seller is going to be posting multiple pictures of a particular item, and you need to tear those pictures apart to see anything wrong with those pictures. If it's a plate, does it have any cracks in it? If it has a metal insert, is it loose? Or if it's some sort of cable machine, how are the actual pulleys? How are the cables and handles? Is everything still intact? If it's a rack, does it have a stupid amount of rust? Same with a bar. And if the pictures aren't good enough for you to tell any of that, then ask them for more pictures. Obviously, they want to sell the item they posted to sell, so they would be more obligated to give better pictures. If they refuse to do so, then move on. That's not the item for you. There has to be something wrong if they're being sketchy about it. Tip number three, verify the seller. Like I said, there's a lot of scammers on Facebook Marketplace, and so you should ensure their profile actually has a history of interactions on Facebook with a few photos, a few posts if you can see them, and then seeing if they have any reviews on their seller's page. That would make them more worthy of your trust. Anybody with none of that, with a profile that was just set up, no picture, a weird name, and no reviews, make them a lot less trustworthy to buy from. And you should proceed with caution or just not deal with them at all. Tip number four, communicate with the seller. And this one should be obvious because that first point of contact is really what gets the ball rolling to actually purchase that piece of gym equipment. Effective communication is the key to any successful transaction. And this one should be obvious because without communicating, you're not getting that piece of equipment. And I swear, do not open with, is this still available? I swear that no one that's ever started the conversation with that has ever bought any piece of equipment from me. Do they not know there's a save button? You don't have to start with, is this available, to freaking have it saved for you to look at later. Don't fucking waste my time, you idiot. Anyway, I change my first message depending on the post. If it's pretty cheap, Then I open with something like, that's pretty fairly priced. Would you prefer cash or electronic payment? And where can I pick this up? I'm telling them that I'm willing to pay for the exact price that they listed and that all they have to do is tell me where to go and I will purchase it right then and there. And because I'm being straight up with it, generally, they'll be more willing to work with me as far as schedule and timing goes to meet up. Like when I bought this package here. It's a Rogue S4 stand, an Ironmaster Super Bench, and a random beater bar. I opened with something like I just said, and our schedules really didn't meet up until like 4 days later, but he was willing to hold them for me. The S4 after shipping is like 500 plus bucks. The Ironmaster is like 400 and I think shipping's free. And then the random beater bar was probably like 100 bucks, but all in it would have been like $1,000. And I bought it for 250 bucks, bro. 75% off, that's a steal. Love when that happens. That's the kind of ish I live for. If the post shows a piece of equipment that I want, but it's just kind of pricey, then I usually open with something like, I'm interested, but is your price firm? If it's only like 10% off of the brand new price, I'd want to know why. And I would hope that they would say something like, no, what would you offer? And then at that point, it opens up to haggling and I can offer something that I would consider a fair price without lowballing. I hate lowballing. And that changes on a case-by-case basis, depending on what I've seen this particular item going for on Facebook Marketplace or similar items. But if they happen to say, yes, it's a firm price, then I have two options. Either I'm willing to pay for it, or I just walk away from that deal because it's not at a price point that I would want to pay. If I absolutely cannot walk away from the deal, but I don't really want to pay that price, then I hit them with the ye old, are you open to trades? Because I do usually have one or two pieces of equipment that I am trying to sell or trying to upgrade, and using that as a bargaining chip to get the price lower is in my favor. There have been times where I've noticed that people post something that isn't actually the piece of equipment they're selling. For example, this GetRx functional trainer was being sold for over $700 on Facebook Marketplace when brand new it's around 450 bucks. So I asked the guy why he's charging $250 over brand new price. It turned out to just be a mistake and he ended up changing the price from over 700 to just 250, and I bought that immediately. It was about a 1 hour drive away, so not too bad, and I'm very happy with this. It is a great replacement for my Titan pull down. But whenever someone posts something that isn't accurate, if I care enough for that day, then I'll probably tell them. But if I'm interested in that piece of equipment, then I definitely tell them. And it's best to approach someone in a kind way instead of criticizing them and thinking that they are just trying to scam someone out of more money. Because generally people just don't know. They do a quick search and find something and then slap that price on. So be kind. Besides the opener, the rest of the communication for me is usually just something like asking about the history of the piece as far as how long they've had it or where they got it from, and then asking about wear and tear, if it's broken at all, and then just asking them what the reason for selling is. Depending on how they answer, sometimes they can be a little sketchy, so it seems like it's a stolen piece and then I don't want to buy it. But besides that, I just move on with the transaction. Tip number 5 kind of falls into tip number 4 in communicating with the seller, but I decided to make it its own tip, and that is don't be afraid to haggle. Obviously, based on my openers, I tend to haggle almost from the get, but I understand that most people don't do that. And if they do haggle, they tend to do it later on in the conversation. But when negotiating for gym stuff, how you approach it determines the end result. So here's some strategies to keep in mind with haggling. Haggling tip number 1 is just make an offer. And now I hate lowballers, but if someone says that their price isn't firm, I do offer something that I would consider a fair price. Usually 60 to 75% of the brand new price is what I would consider fair for a well-used item. And so that's generally what I start with in an offer. The worst they can say is no. And if they say, no, I can't do that, they might come down a little bit and maybe meet you somewhere in the middle. So At least at that point, you're still getting a little more off than they initially started. It really does not hurt to ask. Haggling tip number 2 is don't be greedy. If it's already a great deal, don't try and make it an even better deal by offering a lowball offer. Generally, it'll just rub them the wrong way, and as you're playing hard to get, someone else will come along and pay that price they offered, and it'll be gone before you even see it. So don't be greedy. Haggling tip number 3 is distance is discount. If the item is far from you, you can use that as a bargaining chip. Politely mention the inconvenience of the travel to the seller, and sometimes they'll take some money off, sometimes not, but hey, you tried. And this actually could have saved me once. For my Newell bells, I had to drive over 4 hours to go pick them up one way. Look at me, beefy. And so obviously they were the 80 pounders. Normally they sell for around $800 on Facebook Marketplace, but these were priced at $650, which was low enough to convince me to drive 4 hours one way to pick them up. But anyway, I get there, we're loading the Newell bells onto my car, and he asks me how far I'd drive to get them. I said 4 hours. So he's like, where are you coming from? So I answered, and he says, I don't know if you want to hear this or not. And here I am like, what could this guy possibly say to me? I'm thinking he might say, you know, the Newell bells are busted, or like something's wrong. So obviously the curiosity gets the better of me, and I was like, sure, go ahead, just say it. And he hits me with a doozy of, I'm actually driving there Monday. I could have driven these out to you. It was a concussive blow like I've never had before. I really wish that I tried to bargain with that distance while we were messaging back and forth, and he could have told me that, you know, I'll be driving that way. I can bring them out to you if you're certainly buying them. It was just, I could have saved 8 hours going a round trip, you know? So definitely mention distance, especially if it's a bargaining chip, because you never know if it'll save you money or if it'll save you time. 100%. Haggling tip number 4, a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. And I'll be honest, it took me a hot minute to realize what this phrase actually meant. And I think I was in like my early 20s when I actually figured it out. But a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush is essentially what you have right now is better than what you might have later. And showing the seller that you're willing to make an immediate purchase right now can make it so that they might lower their price to what you're offering, or just lower their price a little bit, which is still a win. This works especially well whenever the post has been up for a long time, like over a month. Haggling tip number 5 is being patient. If the seller isn't willing to budge initially, just give it some time. Sometimes you make an offer and you're one of the first, and they think they can hold out for something better. Turns out nothing better comes along. They might come back to you. And that's why whenever you're interacting with someone, always be kind. You don't want to burn bridges and make it so that they don't come back. But being patient means that you're willing to wait for the seller to lower their price and then come back to you. But this also works in 2 parts. The second part is that sometimes what you're going for gets sold, or they're too firm, they're never backing down, whatever. And then being patient enough to wait for the next one to pop up. And then sometimes that one can be in your price range. So being patient works in 2 parts. Going back to the tips on buying gym equipment, tip number 5 is meet at a safe location. I feel pretty all right meeting someone pretty much anywhere, but even I wouldn't meet someone out in the boonies at like some random coordinates. I've met people at their houses, restaurants, malls, and even a library once. I typically let the seller choose the location so that they could be comfortable, but if I would feel uncomfortable there, then I ask for a different location or offer one myself. If you can bring someone with you, then do it. But if you can't, definitely let someone know where you're going. And for me, I feel like a house is safe enough, but I don't go into the house unless I feel like it's pretty safe for me to do so. Your safety is paramount and should be the highest priority for you. Do not try risking your life for a piece of gym equipment. Tip number 6 is test the equipment. Before purchasing, try and test out the equipment. That way you know for certain that everything is in working order and the equipment is as advertised and what you expected. Check for any mechanical issues and overall functionality. And if you notice something that wasn't posted or wasn't said, and is a somewhat big issue, you can actually use that as another bargaining chip to lower the price even further. But I've never had that happen for myself. And then after those 6 tips, you buy the equipment and it's yours. Good job, buddy. You did it. So I am making these videos out of the goodness of my heart, but they do kind of take me like 10 plus hours to record, edit, and then post. So if you could give me a like or a sub, that would be greatly appreciated. Moving on to tips for selling gym equipment. Tip number 1, take high quality photos. You gotta take good photos, man. The first photo of your post is the first impression that people see. So you wanna make sure that it's a good impression. They can significantly increase the attractiveness of your listing. So be sure to take clear, well-lit pictures from different angles of the piece of equipment. And nobody wants to see those dreamy kind of photos when buying a piece of equipment. Wipe that grease off your lens and then take a good picture. And normally for something that is like a barbell or a dumbbell, you don't really have to show a video of its use. But for any equipment that actually moves, like a treadmill or any other kind of cardio equipment, pulley or leg press, all of those, I would say include a video in your post. Tip number 2 is write a detailed description. You should give potential buyers all the information they could possibly need. For myself, I generally put in a generic title for the actual post, and then within the description, I say exactly what it is, almost verbatim what's posted on that brand's website. For example, for the Titan lat pull down, I might just say lat pull down pulley machine. But then in the description, I say Titan lat pull down tower version 2. Then I'll say what the new price is and the new price after shipping. And as a bonus, I'll say how much they're saving when they buy from me. I'll mention as much about the equipment as I can. So for the Titan lat pull down, I'll say all the exercises they can do on it, what the max weight cap is, what the dimensions are, and then how easy it is to assemble. I, however, do not mention whether I bought it used or new. And if they don't ask, then I don't tell. I generally act as if I purchased it new, so they're not trying to haggle me down from the price I bought it at. So if I bought the Titan lat pull down at $250, I don't want the guy to say, well, you got it at $250, let me get it for $150. I mean, like, that's not how it works. It's still worth $250. Don't give the seller a bargaining chip. Tip number 2 is set a competitive price. You should research similar listings to see what a competitive price would be. You should be able to see what others are selling their pieces for, whether they're the same brand or not. Or at the very least, just take a percentage off of the brand new price. But consider the condition, the brand, and the demand of the piece whenever you're setting a price. I would say be open to negotiation, but know what the minimum number is that you're willing to let it go for. I sometimes like to set a higher price to start with and then immediately update it to a lower price. That way people think they're getting a good deal. I mean, they are regardless. Like for my Titan lat pull down, I initially set it at $400, which is already $200 off of brand new. So they're still getting a decent deal. And then on top of that, I cut it further to $300. So it looks like, ooh, this guy's giving up from $400 to $300. That's a good deal. That's half off. But in my head, I knew I was willing to sell it for $250, which is what I got it for. And that is what it actually sold for. And I'm happy with that. Tip number 3 is respond promptly to inquiries. And while at the moment I hardly ever respond to, is this available? I do respond pretty quickly to every other inquiry on any of my posts. Responding quickly builds a little bit of trust between you and the buyer and increases the chances of a successful sale. Obviously, when communicating, be polite and give accurate information. And if a buyer shows genuine interest, try and meet with them like as soon as you can, because they are also looking at other things. So you want them to buy your piece before they move on to other things. But do not discount your equipment so much that you're like taking a heavy loss on it. That's a no-go for me personally. Tip number 4 is offer delivery options. Like I said, I usually post gym equipment at a price that's higher than the bare minimum of what I would accept. And so sometimes if someone's asking for a lower price and then also delivery, I'll say if you pay full price, I will deliver it. And then sometimes they do accept it, or they'll come and pick it up themselves. And that saves me some time whenever they're asking me to deliver 2 hours away, or, you know, they save $50, like screw it. I'll I'll take a $50 hit if you drive those 2 hours. Like, I don't want to drive that, you know? This can be a huge selling point, especially for items that are so big that people cannot normally fit it in their vehicle. I've even had to rent U-Hauls for some pieces just because they wouldn't fit in my car, but that is only if I'm saving enough money from the brand new price. If renting the U-Haul and then going to pick it up doesn't save me any money, I'd rather just buy it new. I'm gonna keep using the Titan lap pull down because that's like at the forefront of my mind because I just sold it. But I was selling it for 300 bucks. The dude that wanted to buy it said $250 and can you deliver it for me? And he was like an hour and a half away. I said, I'll deliver it if you pay 300 bucks. And he was like, never mind, I'll just come pick it up. So that obviously saved me a 3-hour round trip, which I'm happy to take a $50 hit on that. So ended up selling it for $250 and I didn't have to drive 3 hours. Made me happy, and he came and picked it up. He said he's happy with it, so everyone wins. Tip number 6 is let the buyer win. So hopefully you bought your piece of equipment for a used price. That way it leaves you a little bit of room to either make profit or at least break even. Personally, I always try to make a little bit of money, but it doesn't always work out that way. I have had losses. I mean, they weren't like crazy loss, but some losses and some break even. But by letting the buyer win, I mean letting them haggle you down and letting them feel like they've actually, you know, won the situation. They're more inclined to purchase whenever they feel like they're winning. So I always set the price a little higher than I'm willing to accept. That way there is room for them to win. And if they don't lowball me, I'll at the very least let them haggle me down to the price that I paid for it. I have had situations where the buyer's going through a rough time and they try and haggle. At that point, I do take a bit off just to kind of help out a little bit. And now you don't have to do that. I just think it's kind of nice. When I was selling my Bells of Steel leg extension leg curl, the person I was talking to initially started with, hey, I'm interested in this, but I'm out of town. I won't be back in town for another like 6 days, I think it was. And I just told him honestly, like, sounds good. It'll probably be here when you come back because I'm not getting very many people that are interested. And he was just like, okay, cool, I hope so. And you know, I'll be in town this day. He eventually gets to town. Whenever he does come over to pick it up, the initial price I set it at was $300, and I had to buy it new because no one was selling it used. So I bought it new for like $430. So I took 130 bucks off. But he gets here and he's like, yeah, you know, like my plane got canceled. And so he lost all the money on the plane ticket. And then he had to drive like 18 hours, he said, from where he was. I forget where he was. Drove 18 hours almost straight, I think he said. Then he got here and he looked freaking weathered and like, you know, tired and stuff. But he got here and we were talking back and forth and he was just like, okay, are you firm on 300? And I was just like, you know, this guy's going through some crap, man, that sucks. And I just lowered it to 250 for him. And I mean, he seemed pretty happy with 250. I think he would have been happy with 300, but I was cool with just dropping it 50 and making sure he was happy with it. I'm cool with getting it off my hands. So done and done, win-win, you know? I mean, I guess all things considered, I bought it for $430 and sold it for $250. So it's kind of a loss. But at the same time, I basically rented a piece of gym equipment for 10 bucks a month because I had it for like a year and a half. So having a leg extension leg curl for $10 a month, not too bad. Tip number 7 is being willing to take less than posted. With this tip, I'd say never post with your bottom dollar. It should always be just slightly higher at the very least because you never know who's willing to pay what's actually posted rather than literally your bare minimum. You should definitely have that lowest number in mind though as you go through the selling process. But this tip goes back to a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, where when a buyer is willing to pay a certain price right now, that could be worth it to you rather than someone paying your posted price months and months down the line. And the buyer could just go to someone else selling something similar and then buy it from them because they were willing to haggle while you were not. A while ago, I was trying to sell an echelon rower because that thing sucked Babsolute alls. Definitely unrecommended. But new, it's worth $800. So I was like, you know what? Whatever, I'll post it for $400. It's half off, right? Like I said before, 50% off is a freaking steal of a deal. But time and time again, people were only offering like 200 bucks. And at the time, I was like, lucking faux ballers. What the heck? So as time went on, I started getting like more and more degraded. And so I ended up posting it for 300. Another person comes along, offers 200. At this point, it's been like 4 months, so I just took the 200. But when I initially posted it at 4, someone offered 200 like within a week. So I could have taken that 200 right then, even though it was like a quarter of the brand new price, rather than waiting months and months and months just to take the same amount much later on. In this scenario, I was being kind of greedy though, because I got it free from a family member. And while I tried to use it, I just did not like it. So I should have been happy with those initial offers of $200 rather than trying to be greedy with it and going for that 400. With things like Concept 2 on the market and everybody just wanting to buy that, no one was willing to look at the echelon rower, so that's just how it goes sometimes. Tip number 8 is knowing when to stay firm. And I know that's a little weird after talking about letting the buyer win and willing to take less, but I still believe it's a good principle to follow. Because if you know what you have and you know it's a hot commodity, then definitely stick to your guns. For example, like I said, I bought my Newell bells for $650, which was a fantastic deal. But once I outgrew them, I got my Iron Masters, which made me want to sell my Newell bells. I posted them for $850 and then crossed that out and put $800. Better believe my brain was pulsing from the many wrinkled activities. But after posting, someone comes up and offers $650. Well, I just posted it. Like within a day, someone offered $650. And I politely declined and just stuck to my guns. I've seen that everyone else is posting for 800 bucks. And I was confident that I could probably get 800 bucks too. I wouldn't consider the $650 a lowball offer because I feel like, I paid for that, so definitely not lowball. It was just a little lower than I was willing to sell them for. They did try to convince me to go lower, which was smart of them. They said that there was a sale for Newell bells and that right now it would be like 600 something dollars. But my reasoning to stay at the 800 was that didn't come with the stand and you would have to wait for a hot minute for you to receive them. After a little bit of silence, they did eventually cave and they paid that full 800. If you've been keeping track, I bought my Newell bells for $650 and sold them for $800. I did make profit off of it, but I did also have to drive 8 hours round trip. So I would say it kind of cancels out. It was still a win, but meh, All that to say, if you know what your piece is worth, then stick to your guns. Stay firm. Tip number 9 is be safe. The same as when you're buying something, you kind of want to make sure that you're safe in every regard when you're doing this transaction. And all the advice is basically the same as the other be safe tip, so I'm gonna move on. To tip number 10, use secure payment methods. You should avoid things like checks or money orders because checks can bounce and both could be forged. So accepting that, you might not end up getting your money. You should opt for a method like cash, Zelle, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, or whatever other electronic form of payments you would prefer and that you trust. If it is cash, make sure they've handed you the correct amount of money by actually counting it and not just accepting it, then like moving on with your day. Count it out, and if they do pay in hundreds, make sure that the hundreds are real. There's videos on how to make sure hundreds aren't fake. And while this hasn't personally happened to me, I have read that people are getting scammed in this way. As for electronic payments, make sure that they're sending it and not requesting it. I've seen that people also get scammed in this way as well, where they have sent it and without reading it or anything, you just click accept and then you end up paying them instead, and then they get your equipment and your money and you're left with nothing and less money, which is a double loss on your end. Always confirm that everything is accurate before handing over anything, gym piece or no. Those were my tips on buying and selling on Facebook Marketplace. Did I miss anything? Let me know, and be sure to subscribe, and whatever else, stay hungry.